Right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back once more. Now, we're going to start today with talking about something called the monad or the oversoul, which is one of our levels of consciousness. Some of you, if you've been listening to these, you may have heard me talk at times about stations of identity, levels of consciousness, stations of consciousness. There are different ways I phrase it, but these are part of the expansion or the expanded level of our growth, our ascension back into our full being. There are effectively within the matter worlds, there are effectively 4 levels of consciousness. So in the first level, which is dimensions 1 to 3, we have the ego, personality, identity, which hopefully we are all moving out of. We should hopefully, most of us, be in the next level, which is dimensions 4 to. And when I talk about dimensions, I'm also talking about the activation of those strands of DNA within us. So it's dimensions 4, 5, and 6, and also activation of DNA strands 4, 5, and 6. And that's the soul level. So the soul level really is about working at a more heart-centered level, where within the ego, we're very, very much at the mind. So it's moving into the heart, healing the heart wounds, opening the heart, and things like that. So when we move into the monad or the oversoul level, it's the higher iteration of the soul. And it is quite different in many respects. It is not the soul. A lot of people mix it up. The monad is not the soul. So the monad is dimensions 7, 8, and 9, strands 7, 8, and 9. And then beyond that, we have something called the avatar, which is 10, 11, 12 dimensions. It's where we're moving into full Christed consciousness at that level. So what I'm seeing is that many of the people who are coming to me for starseed readings and people I'm talking to are either beginning to braid in the oversoul or are in the final levels of integrating the final subharmonics of the 5th and 6th dimensional fields, and preparing to move into the oversoul fields, as it were. So I thought it might be actually quite useful to talk a little bit about, what exactly is going on, because I know, this understanding really helps me, because it's different again. The sense of what you're embodying is different again. And actually that word there is important, because it is embodying. We talk about ascension as growth. We usually look at it as being a ladder that we're climbing up, as it were. But really, we are embodying these aspects of consciousness. We're bringing them into the physical body and living them through the physical body. We're not abandoning the physical body in order to move into the oversoul. And that is part of the mastery of what we're here on the planet to do. So it's a bringing the oversoul into the body. It's a full embodying of the oversoul within the physical vessel, as it were. And this is what we saw, when we come to, I think I talked last time, we talked about the guardian avatars. The avatars like Jesus, they embodied these energies within them. They walked the planet in a physical body, holding these frequency levels within them. So yeah, we may have a little way to go, but that's what we're aiming for eventually. So within every dimension, there are 12 harmonics, sub-harmonics to embody. Now, some people talk about these as being pillars, pillars descending in at each level, but I like to talk about them as the harmonics or the sub-harmonics. So there are, within the 7th dimension, there are 12 sub-harmonics for us to integrate, pull in, embody. ditto 8th, ditto 9th, but they are actually broken down into 4 triads. It's the way things are structured, in the same way that we have the 12 dimensions, and they're broken down into 4 densities and the like. This is the way the structures, the geometries of what we exist within form themselves. So the Oversoul sits between the soul matrix or consciousness level of being and between the avatar level. And it is probably, a lot of people will maybe tune in better to what I'm saying if I say it's the higher self. Now, some people call their soul their higher self, but really the true wisdom, that comes from the higher self is coming from the monad level, and it's what I call the eagle's eye view. The ego personality is, you're on the forest floor, as it were. The soul level, you're perched up in the tree. And when you come to the oversoul level, you're the eagle flying high above it. So very different view, very different perception of things. And in order to get to that level, or be able to begin to draw these energies down in, because that's what you're doing. It's your vibration is refining and moving ever higher. Within the soul matrix, you have got to have dealt with really the things that the heart is so damaged by. You've got to have dealt with all the emotional pains, found accommodation, released the emotional blockages and woundings. You've got to have dealt with the shadow body. You've got to have dealt with the trauma body. You've got to have dealt with the pain body. Now, I'm saying it like it's kind of like you kind of do it up in a nice neat bow and put it away in a cupboard, all done and dusted, hands washed. Now, the realities of life, it is never that neat. Things do circle round and often come back for us to deal with at a higher level. But it's by the time we're through the soul matrix level, we should have a mastery, or really, the disciplines of recognizing and knowing how to deal with these things. That should be in place. We should have done most of our shadow work. There shouldn't be bits of ourselves still surprising us. Now, we may be playing out bits of our shadow occasionally. I mean, I know when I get really tired, I get quite grumpy, and little bits of it come out to play again. But I recognize it immediately, and I can capture it and pull it back. And that's what the mastery really is about. It's not about you've got to be perfect, because none of us are. And it's not about aiming for that perfection. It's aiming for mastery. So yeah, you have a bad day, but you don't take it out on everybody else. And and if you find yourself doing it, you catch yourself, pull it back and apologize, because this is your stuff, you own it. And so, by the time you've gone through the soul matrix level, you should have cleared most of these energies. These are darker energies. Also, as well, it's not just us we're dealing with. We're dealing with the fact that we have, we're living in a matrix that have been taken over by fallen consciousness that is trying to keep us down and keep us at their level. So, there are implants that are put into our etheric body. There are seals that have been put in place. There's sort of AI that mimics, I think we've talked about the sort of new age and all the things it gets up to, where it mimics ascended masters and it mimics false spiritual teachings and things like that. So again, you're getting to the stage by the time you're fully through the soul matrix where you are discerning this and you're seeing it and you're taking the evasive action that's necessary. Because if you've still got a light body full of implants, you've still got blockages in the pain body, you have got on unreleased traumas and things like that. If you really haven't done your work at that level, the oversoul cannot descend. It's basically there are too many things in the way. So, you know, this is really the work of what we've been doing at the moment. Is that, and as I said, I've been seeing with so many star seeds that, you know, they're moving through, and the star seeds really are the way showers. We're clearing the way to help the major body of humanity. So I would always expect star seeds to be ahead of the game a little bit, as it were. Not that, you know, that's anything to do with better than or more superior to or anything like that. It's just we're in service, and so we're showing.
Forerunners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're, you know, we're all doing the same thing. We just do it, you know, with slightly different timings, because every single one of us is unique. So the fact that, you know, one person is already embodying the oversoul and another is still, you know, just climbing their way out of the soul matrix doesn't mean anything at all. You know, we're all equals. We're all equals in this.
Yeah.
So where was I? I was talking about, yeah, all the traumas, clearing all the traumas and things like that. So yeah, we've been heavily targeted. So we've got, you know, it's not just what you might expect with normal development. There's a whole load of other stuff that we need to, you know, woundings that have been very deliberately inflicted on us that we have to deal with. But by the time we're in the final subharmonics of the soul matrix, of moving through the soul levels, we are beginning to attract in the first subharmonics. It's a vibrational thing. The sort of upper levels of the sixth and the lower levels of the seventh are beginning to move into some kind of harmony. And so we're moving through into those levels. So it's the beginning of, I almost see it like a magnetization. It's almost like a magnet drawing in the oversoul. So it begins its descent. And as that happens, those first, you know, the dimension 7, the first subharmonics we're moving into, we begin to stabilize. You know, it's we move into a new set of frequencies, and we have to stabilize ourselves within that. So we begin to find it feels a bit strange. It feels like suddenly, you know, where you were getting used to the piece of land you were standing on, it started to shift again. But the soul matrix, what you achieved and done in the soul matrix, locks in, that stabilizes, and you step forward into the next bit and begin to find your feet within that. And you begin to clear any of the remaining interference. You begin, you know, the levels of discernment around all of the false light teachings and all of this. I mean, it really starts to lock in big time at this level. You get much better at spotting it and catching the triggers. And you know, we all get triggered. Just think of what's going on at the moment, you know, out in the 3D world. What's on the news? You just switch it on and you can find yourself raging at, you know, the television or the radio or whatever it is. And it's so it's not letting that happen. Again, that's your mastery. It's you listen and you know, what are the games being played here? This is a drama that's playing out in front of you. These are you know, reality fields that are trying to hook you back into low dimensional levels of consciousness. So you need to spot it for what it is. And that's not to say that you don't dismiss the suffering that's inherent in so much of what's going on here. You witness it. You know, we are part of humanity, and humanity's pain is our pain too. But you don't let it play you. So that's important.
And how are we likely to be feeling, Sarah? You talked about there is this stabilizing that needs to happen in the new frequency, and suddenly you feel strange again. You know, for people listening, what do we mean by feeling strange?
It's possibly, you know, I went through this phase a little while ago, it felt strange, and yet it doesn't, because it's about moving back into your true authentic self. The last of the masks, the last of the roles really begin to fall away. So it's kind of like you're moving back into true essence, true authenticity, true coherence with self. I'm beginning to make that your reality, as opposed to the lived personas that you've had before, as it were. And so in some ways it feels strange to be yourself, because you know, we've been taught at every level not to be ourselves, and it takes unlearning.
Yeah.
But you know, it's there's a level at which there's such a dropping of stress that goes with that as well. I mean, it's one of the things I'll talk in a moment about. Some of the ways that you'll feel is but by the time, you know, you're going through all this, and one of this is your nervous system just calms down.
Yep.
You know, it's not working at such a high level of defense, as it were, because as your frequency goes up, it's like you're shielding, your protection increases, your levels of protection increase. So, you know, that's the first triad of subharmonics, as it were. It is that you have this, it's a clearing and a sort of getting used to the new space, as it were. Then you're really moving into the activation of the descent of the oversoul next. And what that comes in as is as you begin to embody, that embodiment process starts its first steps. Because you are, you know, moving back into your true authentic self, your mission, your purpose, your reason for being here really starts to present itself. I mean, so many people, you know, what's my purpose? Why am I here? You know, the best way for you to find that out is to do the work, you know, clear all the blockages and the shadow work and things like that, and move into the oversoul. Because once you're in the oversoul, it becomes very obvious, you know, the remembering of purpose. And it's different for all of us, very different for all of us. And it's kind of like, duh, well, of course, obvious, but it clearly wasn't up until that point. So I you know, it's a vibrational match. You start to come into vibrational match with yourself, as it were. And you know, so this begins to reveal, and, you know, just spoiler alert, your purpose is not a job.
Yeah.
You know, your mission here is not a job. You know, it's about service. It's about some aspect of service, and there may be a role that you play, or you know, something that you do in order to fulfill that service, but you're not looking for a job title.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Sorry.
So let's expand that a little bit. Some people, when they think about passion, purpose, mission, when we're in the lower levels and we're just trying to clear our stuff, I mean, I remember thinking that whole passion, purpose, mission thing was just, it felt very extravagant. It felt very self-indulgent. It felt very distant. It felt very grandiose. I think, you know, when we're still in those lower levels, it just feels out of reach. It feels like a nice to have.
Yeah, but it's also, as well, you know, if you're coming from the ego level, and it's kind of like, I've got my purpose and I'm here to save the world, and I'm going to, you know, that's it, you've kind of missed the point, really.
So if you feel in any way like you're being evangelical, or you found the answer, or, you know, you're like a woman on a mission and trying to convert people, then that possibly isn't the level of mission and
You possibly need
purpose that
to do
you're
some more
talking
inner
about.
work. Yeah.
Okay. And so sometimes some of us, you know, in those early stages, we think, well, I will become a, I don't know, Reiki practitioner, and then I will heal everyone, and then I will save everyone, and I just want everyone to be better. And you're saying that even at that level, that's not quite it either.
No, it's not.
So it's a
I mean,
deep.
the healing modalities like Reiki and learning to be a flower essence practitioner and, learning your herbs and all sorts of things like this, they're tools.
Okay, great, lovely.
And yeah, they become part of your toolkit. But, when you're a fully embodied oversoul, you heal by being.
Okay, I love that.
And,
Yeah.
and that can be too much for some people. And so there's your tools, but just being who you are is healing. The
Yeah, I love
vibration
that.
of that is healing to the collective.
Yeah. So you are
Yeah,
a healing presence. Well, I guess we all are in our own way, but like we can become increasingly more effective in that
yeah,
role the
absolutely.
more we deepen into that authentic
Yeah,
self.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we've had we've begun to bring the oversoul in. We've begun to activate it. The next level is the sovereignty. Is the really it's kind of beginning to move into the proper embodiment of it. It's descending down, and you're beginning to really inhabit that space. So as it anchors in, it begins to anchor into you. It just, I mean, there's a what do you call it, a poem called, something about wearing purple. When I'm old, I'm going to wear purple. And it's really someone saying, I'm going to stop being bothered by what other people think of me at every level.
Yeah.
I mean, this is where this happens. It really is. And oh God, I love it. I can't tell you.
Yeah.
It's like all of this insecurities and all of the self-doubt and things like that. And it move away. And it's kind of like, this is my truth. If it's not your truth, that's fine, but it's my truth. And you're not going to budge me off it. And you want me to do that? No, that doesn't feel right for me. So it's just a no. I'm sorry, it's just a no. It doesn't mean it's wrong for you, but it's a no for me. And you just become very clear. Your boundaries start to become very, very clear. And you just are who you are, and you embrace that. And it's not that you go and fling it in other people's faces or anything like this, but such a joy just in being yourself. There really is.
Yeah.
And not feeling you have to apologize for it.
I mean, some of us might relate to this as a menopausal type thing. I know that lots of women sort of have this sort of level of dawning and realization as they move through that particular kind of like very human experience, that particular
Yeah.
portal. And it's making me smile. You say some of those symptoms, there's the I don't care, we no longer care club or whatever, isn't there,
Yeah, yeah.
on Instagram, which is wonderful. It's a deepening into a realizing that we don't care about certain things because we don't need to. They're not important. It's about keeping
Yeah, I mean,
appearances.
we may still, put some makeup on and brush our hair, but you're talking about menopause, you've moved or are moving beyond the stage where men stop and no longer kind of are looking after you in the street or anything. You realize you're much more invisible as a woman because that bloom of youth has gone and you're not deemed to be so attractive. And it's like, at one level there's a loss of that, but at another level it's a great freedom. There's
Yeah.
great freedom that comes with it. Well, this is the same but at a much, much larger level.
And I think we're as invisible as we decide to be. I feel like, we're not talking about menopause here, we're talking about the oversoul, but it
Yeah.
feels like a similar rite of passage into what I call the wisdom years,
Yes, yeah,
the
very much.
sovereignty years.
Yeah.
And, that may kind of correspond for some people, but of course it can happen for people much earlier on as well, or the
Yeah.
infancy of this
Yeah.
coming in this level,
But
can
can you
begin in our
imagine
30s.
a 30-year-old with a fully embodied oversoul? They would be magnificent. Magnificent. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Just absolutely compelling. Really compelling at every.
And I guess there are some around, aren't
Yeah,
they?
yeah, it's beginning to happen. It is beginning to happen. There are not, it is a fully embodied oversoul is very rare at the moment. A partially embodied oversoul. There's as I say, there's a lot of starseeds stepping up to this level at the moment. So yeah, where was I? Sovereignty. Yeah, so you're open again at this level. It's I mean, you're stepping into stewardship, to guardianship, you know, the interconnectedness of you and everything around you just becomes so obvious to you. You know, it's your path of service sits before you. And what else would you be doing with your life? I mean, it just, you know, it almost becomes a no-brainer. And you do look back on all the struggles that you've had about, you know, just trying to love yourself and trying to find your purpose and trying to sort things out and get clarity about this and put your boundaries, all of this. So much of that struggle falls away. That's, you know, we'll look at what is happening within the light body in a moment. So, you know, you move into a real sovereignty, and then from there, as the full embodiment comes in, you go through those last levels of the subharmonics of the ninth dimension. You are fully in your service. You are vibrationally transmitting your codes, your mission, your purpose, your clarity, your frequencies into the collective. You are, you know, so that level of alignment really speaks to those around you, and you are transmitting that to those around you. So that's what I meant by, you know, you become a healing presence just by being that. And at the same time, obviously, as this is happening, you're at the very last level of the oversoul. You're beginning to attract in the lower subharmonics of the avatar level. You know, moving into that, as I say, that, you know, this final stage, there's very, very few people who are in this final stage at the moment. But, you know, as we're working, and those of us who are working on embodying oversoul, as we become more aware, and maybe even just, you know, talking about the process like this, it will help people to maybe embody it faster. Yeah, you know, it's becoming more possible that we're going to see avatars walking this planet in the years ahead.
That's exciting, Sarah.
I'm a big, I mean, even an oversoul is such a beacon of light.
Yeah.
Avatar, a bright sun.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So are there avatars on Earth at the moment or not yet?
If there are, I'm unaware of them. That doesn't mean to say there aren't. I mean, why would I be aware of them unless for whatever reason I need to be in contact with them?
Okay.
Um,
Well, it sounds amazing.
I mean, you know, there may be one or two people out there who say, I know there's one. Great. I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, do tell us about it. So, Sarah, this sounds incredibly exciting. And as you say, putting the verbiage and the framework around people's felt experiences, I think helps to really anchor in our understanding. Maybe would it be worth us just talking for a few minutes about, you know, as I'm sitting here, I'm thinking how challenging it is for many of us and, you know, a lot of my clients who speak of having these kind of almost like ascension symptom sort of feelings, whilst kind of dragging what feels like a dead limb in the form of their husband or wife or girlfriend or children, or whatever. How do we, as ascending beings, if you like, or evolutionary souls, how do we cope with still being in relationship with people who haven't got there yet, you know, and we can't talk to them about how we're feeling?
Well, you know, you're speaking to someone who dumped their other half. That sounds very cruel, doesn't it? But you know, I lost my marriage, I mean, 15, 20 years ago now. It's a long time. But because exactly this was happening, and okay, it was not at this particular level, but I was wanting growth and movement,
Mhm.
and stepping forwards, and my husband wasn't. He didn't want change at any level. It was and there was such a grinding,
Mhm.
and I chose to step out of the marriage. It was a very real choice because I just I just couldn't imagine not pursuing the growth. I knew that was what I came here for, and that yeah, I was wasting a life if I didn't pursue it. So and I tried for a period of time to see if my husband, if there was any movement or shift within my husband. There wasn't, and so I chose to step out of it,
Okay.
rightly or wrongly. And it seemed to me that, you know, the division between us would only grow larger as I moved forwards, and therefore the pain that we were causing each other, because neither one of us was happy. I wasn't happy being held back, and he wasn't happy with me. You know, you're not the woman I married. Well, no, I'm not actually. It's 10 years on, you know.
Yeah,
Would hope
exactly.
I'm
Yeah.
not the same. Yeah, I mean, that was my choice. That was the way I dealt with it. I'm not entirely sure I dealt with it as gracefully as I could. Could I have done it better? Yes, I could. Was there a way that I could have brought my husband with me? I couldn't find it at the time.
Mhm.
Maybe there is. I don't know. I don't have the answers. I
Okay.
think I
Well, I think what I'm hearing is
we
an
have to
answer.
find our way through it, and it depends upon the individual you're with, how much give and take there is there. As I say, my husband was, for reasons of his own woundings, to be frank with you, was very rigid,
Mhm.
very, you know, don't want change, don't, you know, keep things the same.
Mhm.
That keeps me safe.
Well,
Yeah.
what I think I'm hearing, Sarah, is that there's a moment of sort of a seminal moment of absolute clarity that descends upon us when we realize that we may well not be able to take this person with us, and that actually the cleanest and most or least traumatic thing in the long run is to make as conscious and as clean and as kind of evolved a break as we can in that moment. And that's what you did. And
Yeah.
I think that, you know, it's slightly easier perhaps when it's friends or when it's associates or when it's work colleagues, and a little more tricky when we're a bit more involved. But nonetheless, what I'm hearing from you is that there is that seminal moment, that level of understanding, that alignment in ourselves that just says, this is not going to work.
Yeah,
And
I can
maybe
tell you,
it's about the courage.
I can tell you exactly when it happened. I was lying on a beach chair on a beach in Mombasa,
Hmm.
looking out at the sea with my husband, you know, sunbathing next to me, thinking the whole thing through. And as the clarity, I'm going to lose my marriage. If I keep going down this road, I'm going to lose my marriage.
And you knew it.
And I have to make a choice.
Wow. Okay. So actually what you're
More
saying is it is
important. Yeah,
incredibly clear.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think where we get in a muddle sometimes, Sarah, and this is like, it's not really off topic, but I think, you know, it's quite a helpful thing to unpack. So I see this a lot in the women that I work with, and I work with men as well, is that we hear that, we get that level of clarity, it descends and it drops, and we choose because it's uncomfortable to ignore it. And that's really where we prolong our own misery.
yeah, yeah,
And so I think, you know, when we are starting to feel that shift in us, we can sometimes manage that and everyone comes along with us and everybody upgrades with us. And there might be a bumpy patch for a while, but then everybody settles down. And sometimes we just can't get through that veil with them.
yeah. And it's not about a lack of love.
No, that's very true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not about that. You know,
Yeah, I like that.
it was a great grief to me to lose my marriage,
Yeah.
but um, yeah, my soul took precedence. It was that, you know, and that was my choice.
Yeah. Yeah. That's wonderful, Sarah. Thank you so much. It really, I think when we hear other people share their experience and share their framework, it really helps us to make sense of our own.
Mm.
And
Yeah,
we realize that, you know, we are not solo on this journey. Other people are experiencing similar things in parallel to us, and these aren't the sorts of conversations that you have around the work, you know, the workplace.
Not at all.
So
Yeah.
having them here is really helpful, and thank you again for such an honest share and such an incredible insight into this particular area. Thank you.
Oh no, a pleasure. It's you know, sort of say, if anybody is going through this or got any questions about it, please email me. I'm always happy, you know, to share and help wherever I can, because this is so important. The more embodied oversouls we have on this planet, or the more people in the process of doing it, the more we anchor in the higher timelines. So yeah, let's just do the work, folks. And as I say, you know, moving into the oversoul there's a level, a real surrendering of ego. It's thy will, not my will. You're looking at the collective, you're looking at service. So it's a big movement forwards, big movement forwards. So everyone. So.
Beautiful. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone who's watching, and we'll see you again. Bye.